Let's see if this works. Sorry about last time. I don't know what happened exactly, but the audio was all crunchy and crazy. It might be a network thing. It's so hard to it's hard to know if you're doing it right because you can't see anything. You can't hear anything. But here we are. I'm trying to figure out how to do this correctly, but I think it's working. Maybe I can see my chat like I'm going to have anyway. Let's see. I don't know how to view chat. And it won't connect unless I have go live. I am live. It says I have an excellent connection. That's exciting. Oh, here we go. Top chat. Okay, I have chat. Terrific. All right, let's see here. What are we doing? What do we got? All right. So we'll recap a little bit. And so Job responded to Eliphaz. And they keep telling him, look, man, if this is all this bad stuff is happening to you, then you must be sinning. There must be something. You must have done something wrong. And it seems to me like people had maybe a perception that bad things happen to bad people, good things happen to good people, and I think this story, turns that on its head and shows that sometimes the worst things happen to the best people because God has a bigger plan for it. At the very least, here we are discussing Job and his experience. So, it's become a blessing to us. And as we said last time, if Jesus would have complained like Job and kind of said, this is unfair, this doesn't make sense, then then he might have gotten stuck in the Garden of Gethsemane and wouldn't have fulfilled his purpose. So sometimes those bad things are necessary to bring about what works for the greater good, even though it's hard, which I can't imagine being in this situation. But the thing is, no one but Job would have been able to endure this, and that's why he was chosen. Not because of his sin, but because of how good of a guy he was. But Job has a bit of a misunderstanding about the nature of punishment. That, he's like, well, these wicked do things and they seem to get away with it. So why does God favor them? And it's not, it's not like that. So anyway, so Job responded to Eliphaz, and then Bildad comes in and he goes, how long will you say these things? And the words of your mouth be a mighty wind. Does God pervert justice, or Shaddai pervert righteousness? If your children sinned against him, then he sent them into the power of their transgression. If you yourself would seek God, then you would plead to Shaddai for grace. If you are pure and upright, indeed, now he will rouse himself for you, and he will restore your righteous abode. So he's like, these guys don't seem to think that Job is upright and blameless. Job is like, tell me what I've done wrong. And they just keep looking at his circumstances and saying, well, you must have done something wrong. But they won't point out what it is. And, Job was very successful and very influential. And so sometimes people revel in the failings of people that are of higher status than them or something like that. And it seems like maybe there's a little bit of that there. But also, this really might be their understanding. And they just don't know. Anyway, if you are pure and upright, indeed, now he will rouse himself for you, and he will restore your righteous abode. Though your beginning was small, your end will be very great. Indeed, please inquire of former generations and consider what their ancestors have found. For we are of yesterday, and we do not know, for our days on earth are a shadow. Will they themselves not teach you and tell you and utter words from their heart? Can papyrus grow tall where there is not a marsh? Will reeds flourish without water? While it is in its flower and not plucked, yet it withers before all grass. So are the paths of all who forget God, and the hope of the godless will perish, whose confidence is cut off and whose trust is a spider's house. He will lean himself against his house, but it will not stand. He will take hold of it, but it will not endure. He is thriving before the sun, and his plant shoots spread over his garden. His roots twine over a stone heap. He sees a house of stone. If he destroys him from this place, then it deceives him, saying, I have never seen you. Look, this is the joy of his way, and from dust others will spring up. Look, God will not reject the blameless, and he will not uphold the hand of evildoers. Yet he will fill your mouth with laughter, and your lips with a shout of joy. Those who hate you will be clothed with shame, and the tent of the wicked will be no more. So, basically, if you do good stuff for God, he's going to shower you with blessings. I think anybody that's had a relationship with God for any length of time will know that that's not always the case. And we don't want to have a relationship with God because of what he can do for us. He's already done everything for us. Everything is from God. So if we're looking for favors from him, as if that's the sole motivation, I think maybe that's what happened with Cain and Abel. Cain, for whatever reason, Cain's sacrifice, God did not acknowledge. It doesn't really say why, but God didn't acknowledge it. And then Cain became very angry. And God's like, why are you angry? Why is your face fallen? If you do well, will you not be accepted? But if you don't, sin is crouching at your door, and its desire is to rule over you. So Cain, it seems like his sacrifice was not out of the gratitude of his heart. He wasn't thanking God for who he is. He was doing something for God to kind of receive recognition. And well, that's not what it's about. And obviously desiring that led him to commit murder. And God didn't destroy him after that. He sent him away, but he kind of drove himself away. I mean, the shame you feel, you're the first guy that ever murdered somebody. I mean, you're going to have a hard time showing your face. So, he took out, but God said that he would protect him even then. And so this idea that God will not reject the blameless, that he will not uphold the hand of evildoers. I mean, that's true. God doesn't, but he doesn't totally reject anyone. They drive themselves away. And so, I this is obviously a deep, and there's a lot of probably allegory going on. But it feels to me that there's this tension of that, like, well, if something bad happened to you, you must have done something bad to deserve it. That people get what they deserve. But we don't get what we deserve, nor do we want to get what we deserve. Because, we fall short all the time. We want to hang out in this perfect place. Well, we're not perfect, so that place ceases to be perfect. It's like a clean room in an operating room or something, right? It's sanitized. The room is clean because everything in it is clean. So if someone that's dirty or contaminated comes into that room, well, now that room ceases to be what it was. So it's not that that person isn't welcome there, but that thing can't be what it is unless they match the same state. Otherwise, it's not the same. If you're in a room and we're all sitting together, listening or watching a movie or something, and then all of a sudden someone comes in with a gun or threatening people, well, all of a sudden that room, it's not a murder, it's not it's not a movie theater anymore, it's a crime scene. And so what we bring to something changes what it is. And so the very concept of this perfect unity where all is good and all is in all, well, if we can't connect in that, then it ceases to be what it is. But it's not us that does that. It's God that does that. God is the one that restores everything. And so we won't see it we may not even see it in our own lifetime. Surely Job, I don't think he could have possibly imagined that his story would go on for thousands of years and still be talked about and still be inspiring. And so Job's blessings, the blessing Job's life and story and his heart gave to all of us has gone on far beyond his lifetime. And so I think that's what the endurance thing is about. And anyway, so let's see. So Job responds. Job answered and said, "Truly, I know that it is so, but how can a human being be just before God? If he wants to contend with him, he cannot answer him 1 time in 1,000. He is wise in heart and mighty in strength. Who has resisted him and succeeded? He is the one who moves mountains, and they don't know how. He who overturns them in his anger. He is the one who shakes the earth from its place, and its pillars tremble. He is the one who commands the sun, and it does not rise, and he seals up the stars. He is the one who alone stretches out the heavens, and who tramples on the waves of the sea. He is the one who made the Bear and Orion, the Pleiades, and the constellations of the south. He is the one who does great things beyond understanding, and marvelous things beyond number. If he passes by me, I would not see him, and if he should move on, I would not recognize him. If he would snatch away, who could turn him? Who could say to him, 'What are you doing?' God will not turn back his anger. Beneath him, the helpers of Rahab bow. How much less can I myself answer him? How can I choose my words with him, whom I cannot answer, even though I am righteous? From my judge I must implore grace. If I summon him and he should answer me, I do not believe that he will listen to my voice, who crushes me with the tempest and multiplies my wounds without cause. He will not allow me to catch my breath. Rather, he will fill me with bitterness. If it is a matter of strength, look, he is mighty. But if it is a matter of justice, who can summon me? Even though I am righteous, my mouth will condemn me. Even though I am blameless, yet it would pronounce me guilty. I am blameless. I do not care about myself. I loathe my life. It is all one, therefore, I say. He destroys both the blameless and the wicked. When the whip kills suddenly, he mocks at the despair of the innocent. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covers the face of its judge. If it is not he, then who is it? And my days are swifter than a runner. They flee away. They do not see good. They go by like papyrus skiffs. Like an eagle swoops down on its prey. Though I will say, I will forget my complaint. I will change my expression, and I will rejoice. I become afraid of all my sufferings. I do not know. I know that you do not consider me innocent. If I shall be declared guilty, why then should I labor in vain? If I wash myself with soap and clean my hands with lye, then you plunge me into the slime pit, and my clothes abhor me. For he is not like a mortal man that I can answer him, that we can come to trial together. There is no arbiter between us that he might lay his hand on both of us. May he remove his rod from me, and let his dread not terrify me. Then I would speak and not fear him, for in myself I am not fearful. So I see a lot of, there is no arbiter between us, that he might lay his hand on both of us. Look what Jesus did. Jesus was the intercessor. Jesus took on the ultimate punishment so that God could remove his rod and his dread not terrify. It doesn't make God not powerful, but I think, and maybe I think about the verse that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. I think about that all the time. It's the beginning. It's not the end of wisdom. It's not the fullness of wisdom, but it's a starting point. When we're talking about this supreme ruler of everything that's in everything, and everything is made by and through, a good place to start is fear, right? I think even when you're raising children, not that I have experience raising them, but I work with kids, you kind of start out motivating them to do the right thing with fear of punishment. But you don't want your children to only fear you, but you don't want them to not fear you, right? You see that, kids that aren't afraid of their parents and they walk all over them and they treat other people poorly and they're selfish and spoiled. Well, that's not good either. So you've got to start with fear. And there's also, why do you fear something? Because you acknowledge that its power is greater than yours. So it seems that, and again, this is, an old story, that Job is definitely afraid of God, and he acknowledges his power. And that's a good starting point. But he hasn't become aware of God's mercy and God's compassion and God's desire to bring us all together into the kingdom. And Jesus hasn't come on the scene yet. And I think it's pretty cool that there's the idea that, yes, bad things can happen to good people, but in the end, it works toward a greater good. And that also, only being terrified of God can lead us to despair. Fear with no hope That's dread. It's terrifying. And um, as a if someone is a parent or even a friend, if when you love something or someone, you want to be respected, you want to be acknowledged, but you don't want them to be terrified of you, or think that you smile over their suffering. So Job fears the Lord, and he acknowledges God. He won't curse him, but it seems to me that he has a incomplete understanding, and we all do. And Job says that, for he's not like mortal man that I can answer him. But again, this is so cool, because I wonder if, in a way, that Job's plight is not that he had to let God know or whatever, but God does do this thing where we talk with him, and we can negotiate with him to an extent. Now, that's what Jacob did. He demanded that God bless him, and Abraham, when with Sodom and Gomorrah, well, if there were 5 good men, you surely wouldn't destroy the whole city for 5, and he kind of keeps whittling God down. Now, I think that stuff is, it's for us to learn. We can't teach God anything, but the only way to know someone, I can't just come in and tell you who I am and all about me. You could know my whole life story and all of that stuff, but unless we actually interact and kind of help each other up and maybe push against each other sometime, we really don't get to know one another. And so I think that tension God allows, because it's really the only way we get to know him. But it seems like Job's prayer is for Christ. He wants he acknowledges that God isn't like a mortal man, so God came down and became a mortal man. There's no arbiter. Jesus came down to be the arbiter for us. And so it seems like Job was praying for Christ, which there's probably a lot of implications that a scholar could go into or whatever, but I think that's pretty cool and interesting. So Job continues, "My inner self loathes my life. I want to give vent to my complaint. I want to speak out of the bitterness of my inner self. I will say to God, you should not condemn me. Let me know why you contend against me. Is it good for you that you oppress, that you despise the labor of your hands, and you smile over the schemes of the wicked? Do you have eyes of flesh, or do you see as human beings see?" Now, see, he's kind of... It's funny because he's saying what he would say to God, but he should know that God hears that too. Or maybe he doesn't know. But he'll find out soon. And he's kind of... I feel like he's misrepresenting God a little bit. He's telling God that he smiles over the schemes of the wicked. I mean, he's asking him a question, but still, like, if someone came up to you, was like, "What, do you like it when I have a bad day? Do you want to see me suffer?" You're kind of projecting a little intent there, So, again, I don't think Job is sinning, but he's certainly missing some elements of God's character and nature, as we all do, because we're just humans. Do you have eyes of flesh, or do you see as human beings sees? Are your days as the days of a human beings, or your years the days of a man, that you seek out my iniquity and you search for my sin? Because of your knowledge that I am not guilty, and there is no escaping from your hand. Jesus did all that. This is really cool. Your hands fashioned me and made me altogether. Then you destroyed me. Please remember that you made me like clay, but you turned me into dust. Did you not pour me out like milk and curdle me like cheese? You clothed me with skin and flesh, and you knit me together with bones and sinews. You have granted me life and loyal love, and your care has preserved my spirit. Yet you hid these things in your heart. I know that this was your purpose. I wonder what this means. These things. I know that this was your purpose, literally, was with you. If I had sinned then, you would be watching me, and you would not acquit me of my guilt. If I am guilty, woe to me. But if I am righteous, I dare not lift my head. I am filled with shame, and just look at my misery. And if my head grows bold, you would hunt me as a lion in its prime, and you would repeat your exploits against me. You renew your witnesses against me, and increase your vexation against me. Relief forces are against me. So why did you bring me forth from the womb? I should have passed away, and no eyes should have seen me. I should have been as though I had not been. I should have been brought from the womb to the grave. Are not my days few? Let him leave me alone. Let him turn from me, and let me rejoice a little. Before I go, and I will not return, to the land of darkness and deep shadow, to the land of darkness, like the darkness of a deep shadow and chaos, so that it shines forth like darkness. Well, for one, God's not actually doing this. Satan is doing it. And Job thinks that God is just toying with him, or just exercising his power for the sake of doing so. He's not doing that at all. As a matter of fact, the only thing God said about Job is, he's so upright and blameless, he'll never reject me. He'll never turn from me. And Job won't turn from him, but he asked that God would turn from him. But what he doesn't understand is that it's not God, it's Satan. And he should ask Satan to turn from him and rejoice in God. But that's very hard to do. And that's okay, because Job is still a human. But he doesn't curse God. But he does kind of maybe not mischaracterize him, but certainly make some assumptions that may or may not be true. So I guess we'll leave it there. Hopefully this stream didn't get all crunchy, and if it did, I apologize, and I'll try to figure out what the heck is going on. But for now, God bless you. I hope you have a wonderful day. Take care.